We support the U.S., the U.S., the U.S. That's the way we like it.
Okay, the United States and Paraguay, Group D, a massive World Cup opener. Today, we're gonna strip away all the usual opening day hype and just look strictly at the history, the contrasting tactics, and the hard data. We really want to understand exactly what's going to happen when these two nations step onto the pitch in Los Angeles, carrying the weight of massive expectations and, of course, the intense pressure of tournament football. Now, to truly grasp the gravity of this upcoming match, we actually need to rewind, quite literally, 96 years. We're going back to 1930 to look at an unexpected historical parallel at the very first FIFA World Cup down in Uruguay. Back when international football was really just in its infancy, these two nations crossed paths in a match that set a precedent we're somehow still talking about today. In that inaugural tournament, the United States met Paraguay and secured a pretty dominant 3-0 victory. But you know, it wasn't just a win. American striker Bert Patinadote actually scored the first ever hat-trick in World Cup history during that specific game. To this day, that result remains the USA's joint largest win at the World Cup. It's like this fascinating historical echo setting the stage for our modern encounter. It creates an immediate underlying tension as the US hosts the tournament once again, almost with the ghosts of 1930 hovering right over the pitch, challenging this new generation to replicate a triumph from nearly a century ago. Section 1. The stakes of Game 1. Opening day pressure. So, the pressure of tournament football is uniquely unforgiving. And honestly, it all boils down to the staggering 83% statistic. Across World Cup history, if a team wins their first match in the group stage, they have an 83% chance of advancing to the knockout rounds. A victory on opening day, it practically punches your ticket out of the group. It sets the tone, it relieves that immense media pressure, and it essentially forces the other teams in the group to chase you. You aren't just winning 3 points here, you're securing total psychological dominance. However, the flip side is absolutely brutal. If the United States drops points and loses this opening game against Paraguay, their mathematical hopes of advancing plummet to just 15%. In a short, 3-game group stage, a day 1 loss forces you into desperation mode immediately. This means Mauricio Pochettino's squad simply cannot afford a slow start. The margin for error is basically zero right from the opening whistle. For a host nation manager tasked with making a deep run, a loss here isn't just a setback, it's a potential disaster that could derail their entire tournament before it even truly begins. Section 2. The tactical clash. Opposing philosophies. When the whistle blows, we're going to witness two Argentinian managers deploying completely opposing philosophies. Mauricio Pochettino's USA wants to dictate the tempo. They're built to play free-flowing, possession-based football, really utilizing their attacking flair and technical midfielders to control the center of the park. Gustavo Alfaro's Paraguay, though, the exact opposite. Alfaro will do absolutely everything in his power to drag the Americans into a gritty, physical slog. Paraguay is going to deploy a rigid defensive low block, pack the penalty area, and specifically try to neutralize the U.S.'s speed and rhythm, basically daring the Americans to find a way through the wall. And if you think Paraguay's style is just about, desperately surviving, think again. It is incredibly effective by design. During the notoriously grueling, altitude-heavy South American qualifiers, Paraguay booked their ticket to the World Cup, averaging just 37.3% possession. Think about that. They do not need or even want the ball to beat you. Furthermore, they scored a massive 36% of their goals through dangerous set pieces. They are literally built to frustrate you for 80 minutes, absorb wave after wave of pressure, and then strike lethally from a single corner kick or a chaotic free kick the exact second your focus slips. Which brings us to a vital observation from the analysts over at ESPN FC, who hit the nail on the head when they noted, if you want to outfight Paraguay, you're going to lose. For the United States, this match requires absolute emotional intelligence. A brawl is exactly what Paraguay wants. Cynical fouls, delayed restarts, arguments with the referee. Just a fragmented stop-start game that completely destroys any passing rhythm. If the U.S. abandons their tactical discipline, gets frustrated by those dark arts, and gets drawn into an emotional street fight, well, they'll fall right into the trap. They will come out second best against Gustavo Alfaro's battle-tested men. Section 3. Key player matchups, game changers. Of course, grand tactical philosophies are ultimately executed by specific individuals, right? The central narrative on the pitch really revolves around the U.S. attack, trying to break down an organized wall. Christian Pulisic's creativity and Balogun's finishing are going to be severely tested by Paraguay's elite center-back pairing of Omar Alderete and Gustavo Gomez. Gomez in particular provides this immense leadership and aerial dominance, making them incredibly difficult to break down through traditional crossing. Meanwhile, veteran Miguel Almiron, a player very well known to American fans from his MLS days, will be lurking. He specifically thrives on exploiting the space behind high defensive lines, just waiting to launch punishing, sprinting counterattacks the split second the U.S. turns the ball over in the midfield. And Almiron's looming threat, that's highly concerning for the hosts, mainly because the U.S. defense has been, frankly, incredibly porous recently. The U.S. men's national team has conceded 11 goals in their last 4 matches leading up to the tournament. Analysts have repeatedly pointed out that the American backline has looked disjointed, totally prone to miscommunications and silly individual mistakes. Now, factor in the pressure of playing at home. If the U.S. makes a careless defensive error early on, giving Paraguay a cheap goal, the anxiety of 70,000 expectant fans is going to instantly bleed onto the pitch. It's exactly the kind of nervous energy a disciplined counter-attacking team like Paraguay is just waiting to capitalize on. Section 4. Analytics and odds. Predicting the outcome. So looking at the betting lines for this clash under the bright lights of the spectacular Los Angeles Stadium, the USA enters as the slight moneyline favorite, but the margins, they reflect genuine, undeniable danger. Being just a slight favorite at home essentially means the odds makers are hedging their bets. They acknowledge the United States has the superior on-paper talent and the immense advantage of a partisan home crowd, sure, but they deeply respect Paraguay's proven ability to grind out a result against technically superior teams. The sportsbooks are practically begging you to tread carefully here. And the data models completely agree with the bookmakers' caution. The Opta supercomputer actually ran 10,000 simulations of this exact tactical matchup, and the results reinforce just how razor-thin these margins are. It gives the USA a 39.6% chance of victory, compared to Paraguay's 33.8%. So it gives the hosts a very narrow analytical edge, essentially viewing this as a coin toss against the highly capable South American side. But what's really striking to me here is the 26.6% probability for a draw. In tournament football, a draw probability hovering near 27% is remarkably high. It's signaling that the supercomputer expects a tightly contested, low-scoring stalemate where neither side is willing to give an inch. Section 5. The final verdict. Who wins? Interestingly though, when we contrast the cold logic of the supercomputer with expert human analysis, the picture gets even more complex. Respected international football analysts, like the highly popular Mundo Maldini, heavily favor a gritty draw or an outright Paraguayan upset. Maldini's model actually gives the U.S. only a 25% chance of winning, while giving a draw a massive 40% probability and a Paraguay win 35%. This human analysis highlights those very real, unquantifiable variables: the legitimate physical threat the South Americans pose, the historical resilience of Alfaro's defensive blocks, and the deeply ingrained belief that the suffocating anxiety of playing at home on opening day might just stifle the young U.S. team's creativity. And we absolutely must add one final explosive piece of context to this analytical tension. The last time these two nations shared a pitch was a friendly match just this past November, and that so-called friendly rapidly devolved into an outright brawl, complete with red cards and physical altercations. The bad blood is already there, simmering just below the surface. This historical animosity means the match shifts from being a purely tactical exercise on a whiteboard into a severe test of psychological temperament. The stage is unequivocally set for a remarkably tense, physical, and emotionally charged 90 minutes. So, as the opening whistle approaches in Los Angeles, we're really left with one vital question. Will the history of 1930 repeat itself with a commanding American victory, or will Gustavo Alfaro's Paraguay successfully drag the hosts into a muddy, physical fight they just can't win, shocking America on their own soil?